The night she opened her grill, and something inhuman arrived. The river always smelled faintly of smoke and salt. Villagers often gathered there at dusk, when the sky bled into purple, to wash clothes or share gossip. But that night it was different. The air was thick, charged, as if the earth itself held its breath. Nura dragged her iron grill to the edge of the riverbank, her arms trembling from the weight. She was poor, always had been, but hunger had made her bold. If she grilled what little chicken she had, maybe the smell would bring paying customers. Maybe, just maybe, she could feed her children. She struck the first match. The fire crackled to life, flames licking hungrily at the metal bars. She laid strips of seasoned meat across it, the sizzling sound cutting through the still night air. The aroma rose, drifting into the mist rolling off the river. At first, it felt ordinary, comforting even. Smoke curled skyward, firelight painting her face in warm tones. She hummed softly, trying to calm her nerves. But then she noticed something strange. No frogs croaked from the reeds. No crickets sang. The usual chorus of river life had gone silent. Only the hiss of the grill remained. Her neighbor, an old woman passing with a bucket of water, stopped to sniff the air. She frowned. "You shouldn't be cooking here, Nora," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why not?" Nora asked, forcing a smile. The woman only shook her head. "The river doesn't like fire." And then she shuffled away, refusing to meet her eyes. Nora laughed nervously. Old wives' tales, she thought. The village was full of them. She turned the meat, watching fat drip into the flames. The smoke thickened, curling low, as if reluctant to rise. She coughed, waving it from her face. That was when she heard it, splashes. Not the gentle plop of fish or the ripple of water birds. Heavy, deliberate steps. Something wading, slow and purposeful, from the middle of the river. Her breath caught in her throat. The mist shifted, parting just enough to show a silhouette, tall, impossibly tall, its limbs long and angular. It did not sway with the water. Instead, the river seemed to bend around it, as though afraid to touch. The smell of grilled meat grew overpowering, almost rotten. Nura dropped her tongs, heart pounding. From the fog, a voice slithered out, low and broken, like reeds scraping stone. "Hungry." Nura's legs refused to move. Her body screamed to run, yet she stood rooted to the spot, clutching the edge of her grill as though it might anchor her to the world of the living. The mist rolled tighter around her, swallowing the riverbank until she could barely see her own hands. The shape wading through the water grew clearer, a towering figure, skin the color of wet stone, its limbs stretched unnaturally long. Where a face should have been, there was only a hollow, black void that shimmered faintly in the firelight. Nura tried to call out for help, but her throat closed on the sound. The only voice in the night was the hiss of the fire and the steady whisper of the thing moving closer. The grill popped and sputtered, releasing another wave of smoke. That was when the figure shuddered violently. It inhaled, slow and greedy, the empty cavity where its mouth should have been widening into a jagged slit. "Hungry," it rasped again. The sound was not just heard, it pressed into Nura's bones, vibrating through her chest like a funeral drum. She stumbled backward, nearly tipping the grill, but the figure raised a long, dripping arm. Its hand, or what resembled one, pointed directly at the food sizzling over the fire. For a moment, Nura's mind grasped at hope. Maybe it wanted the meat. Maybe she could give it the food and send it away. With shaking hands, she picked up the tongs and held a piece of chicken out toward the mist. The figure moved faster than she expected. Its arms stretched, impossibly long, snatching the meat in a single sweep. The food disappeared into the slit of its face. Silence fell. Then it shivered, not with satisfaction but rage. The slit opened wider, and from its hollow core came a piercing cry that split the night like shattered glass. The cry echoed across the water, and suddenly the river was alive. Shapes rose from the depths, half-seen forms with eyes like drowned lanterns. They hovered just above the surface, dozens of them, circling in the mist. Nura staggered back, panic clawing up her throat. She wanted to flee, but behind her, more figures began stepping from the trees. Not villagers, these were thin, gray silhouettes, their faces blurred, their limbs jerking like puppets. Drawn by the smell, drawn by her fire. The first figure leaned closer, so close she could feel the cold radiating from its body. "Not food," it hissed. "You burned a life." Nura stumbled backward until her heels hit the soft mud of the riverbank. The grill hissed as fat dripped into the fire, smoke rising in suffocating curls. But the smell, what once promised hope, was now a curse. The towering figure bent low, its hollow face inches from hers. Its slit mouth widened, inhaling so deeply that the flames bent toward it, nearly extinguished. Nura gagged as the air grew thin, stolen away by its endless breath. Around them, the water rippled. The drowned shapes lifted higher, their dripping bodies breaking the surface. They were not fish. They were not men. Their skin hung loose, eyes glazed white, mouths filled with river silt. They whispered in voices like gurgling water. "Feed us, feed us." Her chest tightened. Her children's faces flashed in her mind, skinny arms, hollow eyes, the hunger she'd tried so hard to erase with this meal. She had lit the grill for them. Now the river wanted its share. She shook her head, trembling. "I have nothing else," she cried, voice breaking. The gray silhouettes at the treeline lurched closer, their jerking bodies illuminated by the dying fire. They swayed together in unison, whispering the same chant. "Give or drown." The inhuman figure reached into the grill, its elongated fingers curling through the iron bars. It lifted the entire cauldron of sizzling meat as though it weighed nothing, and with a guttural snarl, it flung the food into the river. The drowned figures shrieked in unison, tearing the chicken apart with skeletal hands. The water frothed red, not from blood, but from something older, something wrong, like rusted iron bleeding into the current. Nura's heart pounded. Her last hope had vanished into the depths. The tall figure straightened to its full height, blocking out the moonlight. Its hollow mouth opened once more, but this time, the voice was not its own. It was many voices, layered and distorted, echoing from the drowned. "Bring us more. Bring us flesh." Her knees buckled. "No, please, I can't." The figure's head tilted, almost curious. Then, in a movement so sudden it stole her breath, it pointed toward her house, the small shack by the fields where her children slept. The mist shifted, curling in that direction like a path being drawn. The drowned shapes began sliding across the water toward the shore. Nura's blood turned to ice. They weren't hungry for chicken. They were hungry for her family. "No!" The word ripped from Nura's throat before she could think. She sprinted forward, planting herself between the mist creatures and the path to her home. Her chest heaved, but her eyes burned with a mother's defiance. "You won't touch them," she whispered, though her voice shook. The tall figure bent toward her, its hollow mouth trembling with a noise that might have been laughter. Behind it, the drowned creatures swayed in the river like reeds in the current. Their whispers thickened, overlapping until they became one terrible chorus. "Flesh for flesh, give or drown." Nura's mind raced. Her children, small and frail, could never survive this horror. But what could she offer? She had nothing. No money, no food, nothing except her own body. Her hand trembled as she raised it toward the towering figure. "Take me," she said, her voice cracking. "Take me instead. Leave them." The mist stilled. Even the whispers stopped. For a moment, the world hung silent. Then the figure leaned close, its slit mouth gaping wider. The stench of rotting riverweed poured over her. "Willing," it hissed. "Strong, but not enough." Her stomach dropped. "Not enough?" The drowned stirred, their bloated arms reaching toward the shore. The shadows from the treeline crept closer, twitching like marionettes. Nura's resolve crumbled into despair. But then an idea struck her. The villagers. The ones who had watched her struggle for years, offering pity but never help. They had food stored away, hidden in their homes while her children starved. They had let her scrape by, whispering about her poverty, never lifting a hand. If the spirits hungered, why not feed them those who had turned their backs? Her breath caught at the thought. Could she? Could she damn them to save her children? The figure loomed closer, as if it had plucked the thought straight from her mind. Its voice rattled the air. "Choose," it whispered. "Your blood or theirs." Her body shook violently. Her knees buckled. Behind her, the faint glow of her shack flickered through the mist, a reminder of the little faces waiting for her return. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "I'll bring you others." The drowned shrieked with approval, thrashing the river into a frenzy. The shadows retreated slightly, swaying like satisfied beasts. The tall figure straightened, its gaping mouth closing into a slit of triumph. The pact was made. The mist clung to Nura like a second skin as she stumbled back toward the village. Her body felt hollow, her soul scraped raw. Behind her, the drowned spirits melted into the river, their whispers echoing like promises etched in bone. Her shack's faint light flickered ahead. For a moment, she faltered. She wanted to run inside, clutch her children, and pretend the world hadn't just shifted beneath her. Pretend she hadn't spoken those words, "I'll bring you others." But the air carried a warning. The stink of wet decay, the faint ripple of unseen eyes watching from the treeline. They would be waiting. The spirits had not freed her. They had claimed her. That night, she lay awake beside her sleeping children, staring at the cracked ceiling. Every creak of the shack sounded like a drowned hand dragging across the boards. Every breath she took felt borrowed. She knew what she had to do. At dawn, she walked into the village square with her head bowed. Her neighbors looked at her with the same detached pity as always. They didn't notice the mist curling faintly around her feet. They didn't notice how her eyes, bloodshot and hollow, no longer looked entirely human. By nightfall, one of them was gone. The next evening, another vanished. The whispers spread like wildfire. The river is cursed again. The drowned are taking us. People began bolting their doors, whispering prayers. But it didn't matter. Nura was the key, the herald. She lured them out, one by one. Sometimes with desperate pleas for help. Sometimes with false promises of food. And always the mist followed. Her children never knew. She fed them, clothed them, kept them safe. Each time they smiled, her heart twisted tighter. She told herself it was worth it. She told herself mothers are supposed to do anything for their children. But the drowned were never satisfied. One night, weeks later, Nura stumbled back to the riverbank, her hands bloody, her eyes wild. She screamed into the mist. "I've given you so many. I've done everything you asked. When will it end?" The tall figure rose from the river, its mouth opening in a grin too wide, too sharp. "Never," it whispered. "A bargain once made binds forever. The feast is endless. The hunger is eternal." Nura fell to her knees, the weight of her choice crushing her. She looked back toward her shack, where two small shadows played against the window. And in that moment, she understood the final cruelty. The spirits had never wanted her children's lives. They wanted her soul, rotted by the sins she chose in their name. And now she was theirs. The mist closed in. The river roared. Nura's scream was swallowed, becoming one more whisper in the endless chorus of the drowned.